for coming. Where I come from, they say you have to get to church early to sit in the back. So there's still a little more room in the front if you want. I would like to let you know we have Troop 351 will be leading us in the flag salute. We have John Waldron, the Scoutmaster, and Jacob Pettis, John Waldron, Brandon Ryden, Nathaniel Lucas, Justin Yang, Stoughton. I got the last name right when I first said it. Now I've blown it completely. Stoughton Svetlov and Luke Gutierrez. Please come forward.
Please rise for the presentation of the colors. Color guard, attention. Color guard, forward march. Color guard, prepare to post colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color guard, post colors. Color guard, reform. Color guard, return to ranks. Color guard, dismissed.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a seat, please. So my name is Dan Biles. I'm the second vice president for the San Marino City Club. Also with us tonight is Frank Chen, who's our secretary, and David Wang was nearby somewhere. You'll be joined with Mitch in a bit, who will be our MC. I'd like to thank all of the candidates for having the courage to come and participate, as well as just all the efforts that you make towards helping our community and the schools. Our format's relatively simple tonight. We will have some brief announcements, then we'll have a series of 5-minute prepared remarks by the candidates, after which time there will be a series of 8 questions, and they are seated in this order. I didn't notice whether it's alphabetical or not, but they drew lots earlier so that that would be random, and that we will address the questions to them. They'll make their remarks in that order, and then they'll be receiving questions. Each one of them will be the first to answer 2 of 8 questions that are prepared. They'll be allowed a minute for each of those questions to respond. That'll take us about a half an hour. During the time when they're making their remarks, or when they're responding to the prepared questions, we would invite you all to submit your own questions. We have forms out in front. Many of you have some. Frank is here. He has more of them. And we will be screening those questions primarily so we don't wind up with a lot of redundancy of the same questions. They are not going to be addressed to individuals, even though I think it says so. That's from an earlier version. And we expect the questions to be of a suitable nature for a civilized gathering like this. No biting, no chair throwing. And we will, while we started a little late because we knew a few people were going to trickle in, we will finish up relatively on time because Mitch has to get his tie back by 8:30 tonight. So I would like to ask Mitch Lehman to come up, who will be our Master of Ceremonies.
Welcome, thank you all for coming. I want to let you know that also, like the order that the candidates will speak, the questions were written and then were arranged by a lot order as well. So there will be the first question is not the most important question. They have just been rearranged into that order. Nobody has seen the questions, the 8 questions that will be asked from the podium. There was a call placed to the district office earlier where I asked Superintendent Kleinrock and Assistant Superintendent Boucher to clarify a couple numbers that were in these questions, so nobody has seen them other than myself. So the lots were drawn earlier. Each candidate will now have 5 minutes to make an opening statement, and drawing first was Mr. Phil Chan. Phil.
Thank you, Mitch. You're looking good tonight.
Thank you.
First of all, I need to thank my wife, just in case I forget to do that later. But thank you to the City Club, parents, residents. Thank you for coming tonight and giving me an opportunity to discuss my views on the school board and talk about why I'm running for San Marino School Board. I'm excited to participate in the forum tonight. Always excited to be able to participate in any type of democratic process. I think that's great. A little bit about my background. I've been a resident of San Marino for the past 18 years. I have 2 kids, 2 boys, Jeffrey and Michael. Jeffrey is a senior at San Marino High School. Michael is a freshman. They both attended San Marino High School since kindergarten. I am a certified public accountant. That's by trade. Spent about 10 years doing that. Started off in the international accounting firm of PricewaterhouseCoopers. I have a master's degree in business from USC. In about the last 13 years or so, I've basically been an entrepreneur. I've invested in various different technology ventures. I've ran different technology companies. And that's what from a business side, that's what I've been doing. From a volunteer aspect in the community, I'm on the San Marino Schools Foundation. I'm currently the chair of the audit committee. And also, I've been a volunteer for the past 15 years in various other aspects, which kind of culminated for me in 2012 when I was the president of San Marino Little League. I have a deep passion for this community. I have a deep passion for our kids, and that's the main reason why I want to be on the San Marino School Board. I think I'd be a great school board member, simply for the fact that I think I add a different dimension to the board. Right now, currently on the board, we have 3 attorneys, a healthcare administrator, and a rocket scientist. Also, at the board meetings, if you go to San Marino School Board meetings, we have our 4 district administrators, our superintendent, Lauren Kleinrock, and our 3 assistant superintendents, past principals, assistant principals, past teachers. So on the board now, we have 9 people, none of which know anything about finance or accounting. And considering that funding is the biggest issue we have with our school district, I think I would add a certain amount of expertise to the process. It is a board. I'm just one member. There are 4 other members. So I would be an addition to that team. I'm skilled at forensic accounting. I can write a budget from scratch, let alone analyze a budget. And I think there are a certain amount of issues with regard to our school district. We are number 1. We've been the number 1 school district for 11 straight years, so nothing's broken. So there's no reason to get to freak out or anything like that. But I think that with the funding issue, parents are continually asked to contribute. We have the greatest parents in the world here in San Marino. And the Schools Foundation, I'm used to making those calls to ask the parents for the $2,000. We have a shortfall from the state. We don't get enough money. The state only provides 49% of our budget. So the rest of it comes locally. So we ask the residents, we ask the parents to pass a parcel tax, to give us that money, to make the contributions to the school foundation, which are sorely needed. You know, don't get me wrong, please contribute, because that's very, very important. But a lot of the issues comes down to funding. And I just think that my expertise would just add additional plus to the board. I think that my expertise in accounting and finance is crucial. And also the fact that I've been in the community, I have kids here who are currently at our schools, and I think that's also a very important thing for a school board member to have in San Marino. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chan. Next, Joseph Chang.
Good evening, everyone. This is almost finished my third term. I'm going to my fourth term. And the people may wonder why I'm going to my fourth term. I want to tell you because I love the San Marino community. Since I moved in 1991, I've been dedicated all the volunteer work to this community. So I'm the hospital administrator. When I come back to home at the night, I live in the West Drive, so I always go to the school district instead of my home. So I've been used to this pattern. So it's very difficult for me to change it immediately. So, and also, there's two issues, the California, they've been changing the regulation. First of all is the local control funding formula. Secondly is a common core. I want to be witness, continue to follow up for these two regulations, which our school district will need to do the follow-up, because I think this time still, financially still uncertainty. So as the hospital administrator, my job is the most complicated in the world. And for the 12 years, I've been helping for the school district minimize the risk and also stabilize the budget. Currently, we have 3 lawyers and we have one rocket science specialty. So I'm the only one, doing for management. So I'm proud I can continue to do this job. To talking about my background, the 1984, I come from Taiwan, and then I went to the Tulane University in New Orleans. I get my MHA degree. So I've been served for the hospital administrator for almost about 25 years in the greater San Gabriel Valley. And my wife, Sue, we raised 2 kids. Those 2 kids, they graduate from K-12 from the San Marino public school system. And they also honorably get the Eagle Scout. So I tell you, 30 years ago, I was a new immigrant. But when I come to this town, after I settled my family, I believe there's a new life in the United States. So I follow all the steps, whatever Main Street they have a Boy Scout. I dedicate my Boy Scout, Rotary, and San Marino Library as the treasurer. I was the vice chairman of the American Red Cross, the greater San Gabriel. And I was a workforce for LA County Commissioner. So for the last 5 years, I'm the one of 40 trustees in charge for the LA County job recruitment. And currently, I'm also serving for CARETech Associate Trustee, helping for the CARETech for promotion. As you may ask me, is that there's another person to substitute my job? I remember my fellow Andy Bass mentioned for this the top time, nobody can substitute for the experience. 12 years is a big commitment, as you know. 12 years is a big commitment, but I still willing to continue to contribute my time and effort to the school district. Because my 2 sons grow up from this community, I think I want to continuously feed back to the community. And the school district, with my 12-year experience, that's the way it's easily, I don't need to review the old policy, I can help in the school district administrator to review the new policy to address for the local control funding formula and common core. Thank you.
And as such, to serve the children of our community, I will ensure their successful transition from the state standards to Common Core curriculum and the change in testing for the children. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Ma'am Jack, Mrs. Jack.
This is my second time running for school board, and I can safely say
So I'm honored to answer this question because
Joseph, I'm sorry, it was actually Phil. It was Phil, you're first, I'm sorry.
With the G.
Yeah.
you know, so far we still ask.
Joseph, it's actually Phil who goes first. We start in the same order. I apologize. I think I was unclear or I did not enunciate Chan properly. Mr. Chan.
All right. I think at that time, we really need to see where the district is in its, with the new local control funding formula. Because right now, nobody really knows. On the school foundation, we get reports every month from Lauren, and he'd be the first one to tell you that we don't really know exactly what we're going to get. We think we're going to get more than we get right now, but we're not sure. But either way, it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough to give our kids the education that they deserve, the world-class education they deserve. So at that time, in the future, if we don't have enough, if things don't turn around in the economy and in the new formula, we don't get the $10,000 that we need per student from the state, which I highly doubt we will get that, then yes, I think we need to go to our parents, our residents, and ask them to renew the parcel tax.
Thank you. Joseph.
If you review the San Marino School District, the revenue budget, you know, the 49%, they are from the local community. So mean for the government funding only about 51%. And right now there's a local control funding formula, whether we can get more, still too early to know. But one thing we know, we are small school district, we are high performance school district, we are not a low income school district. So as I know, we may not get enough significant funding in the future. So I think this is my motivation, continue to be the school board to watch and monitor and discuss with the school district how we can do the funding to stabilize our budget.
Thank you. Mrs. Ryan.
Having examined a number of school budgets, I understand that school budgets are an indicator, a forecast, if you will, of what's planned for this year and looking at the next 3 years. I don't believe that I have the information to determine whether we would go to the parents for additional funding or for sustaining another parcel tax. What I believe in is maximizing the funding that we already have, and I believe in looking at the school budget and ensuring that proper, sufficient funding is allotted to ushering the Common Core that we're transitioning to, also ensuring that our students are properly supported in academics, athletics, and the arts. I also would look at how we generate our fundings. I would like to have a more comprehensive look at how we generate fundings in terms of the foundation, PTA, and the tax revenue. We also have an untapped resource, which is we have not looked at how the state and federal monies will apply to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Jack.
You know, at the present time, we have two parcel taxes. One, Measure E, which is $795, which we passed in 2009. It was for 6 years, and it sunsets 2015. We have Measure R, which was passed last year for $330, which lasts for 6 years, so it sunsets in 2019. Without both parcel taxes, the district would be in the hole by over $5 million, which means about 65 employees. With a local control funding formula that the state would like to implement. And we don't know, but our best estimate at this time is that we may receive maybe about $2 million more, but that $2 million versus the $5 million, that still leaves us in a hole of $3 million. So it is something that we need to look into to determine exactly how much we will get, but we are a small district, and unfortunately, I believe no matter what the formula may be, we may still need a parcel tax.
Thank you, Mrs. Jack. Mr. Biles has been kind enough to remind me that there are question forms that are going around. Please feel free to take one from Mr. Frank Chen there or Mr. Biles. And it may say so on the form, but questions are not to be asked to a specific candidate, and the question that is asked will go to all 4 candidates, sort of in the same format that we are going through now. Question number 2, and our first respondent will be Joseph, and it is this. Since the last century, the San Marino Tribune, I'm not sure how that got worked into this question, has been an advocate of maintaining a single blanket athletic booster club that contains members from each individual sport or activity. If this proposal would be set before you as a board member, would you support it, be against it, and why?
We are running for school district. Everything had to be transparent. As you know, for my 12 years, I'm trying to, reinforce all the policy procedure. So for what I'm doing for the boost club, so we need to make sure, we have the right policy to support, and then they will have a very healthy operation to manage the fund. Thank you.
Mrs. Ryan.
The boosters serve our community, and we thank you for all the support. Boosters are to ensure that our athletic programs run. If elected to the school board, I will ensure that the boosters will support both the boys and the girls athletics. And as such, I would like to also add that boosters are meant to ensure equal access for all students, and to ensure that we deliver the 3 A's in terms of athletics and opportunities for our students to be successful.
Thank you. Mrs. Jack.
In fact, Mitch, we are looking into that. The board is actually reviewing right now. The way the booster clubs operate is there are separate booster clubs. Some of them are 501c3s incorporated in separate entities. Others are not. So in order to provide more uniformity and transparency, the board right now at this time is looking into having one large organization inviting all of the various booster clubs for the various sports to become part of that one organization, and do it in partnership or in support with our high school principal and athletic director, so that we can provide kind of a unity as to goals and objectives.
Thank you. Mr. Chan.
I've been in favor of having a single booster club organization for quite a while. I've been on several of the booster clubs at San Marino High School, and I think it's a great idea because it provides clear transparency. Right now we've got a lot of different organizations, and everybody's kind of going all different ways, and they're creating their own rules. We need to have one simple set of rules that governs everybody. Again, we should be transparent to everybody in the program, and that's the way to do it.
Thank you. Moving along to question number 3. The first respondent will be Mrs. Ryan. The San Marino School Board has formed an advisory committee to evaluate the impact of cell phone towers that are located on or near the district's campuses and advise the board on matters related to their presence. Are you in agreement with this process? And if so, are there any other steps you feel should be taken to hasten the process?
First of all, I believe the cell tower issue is an important issue for San Marino to deal with in terms of a community. It is an important aspect because parents brought the issue up to us in terms of the safety of the children. Whenever issues of safety are of concern, I would venture to say that I believe that having a study committee is very important. However, in having the study committee, we ought to also set a time limit in terms of how long we're going to continue talking about it. So the process of a study committee is great in that it allows input from the community, it allows us to gather the data to make informed decisions, but it also allows us to get consensus of where we want to move. But I'd like to see a time limit in terms of when we will proceed to implement the plan or the strategy of how to deal with that, the concerns.
Thank you. Mrs. Jack.
I, as a board member, am proud that we created an advisory committee, the Cell Tower Advisory Committee, made up of community members, district staff, to look into the issue. Through the diligence of those members, and I'm going to give a shout out to Miriam Nakamura-Kwan, she found out that the towers were not in compliance. So with respect to the Verizon Tower at Valentine, she found out that that they had not obtained the required CUP from the city. And so now it is up to the city to decide whether or not to grant that permit. The first hearing was set for September 25th and is now set for Wednesday, October 23rd. So if you want your opinions heard, please go to the public meeting, which is what I believe it to be at the public library. I know that the cell tower issue has been a contentious one for this community, and some have felt that their opinions have been marginalized and not listened to. To the extent that I, as one board member, contributed to those misunderstandings and miscommunication, I apologize because that was never my intent. So cell towers were approved by the boards before me, so I cannot and do not want to comment on that decision. If those contracts came before the board today, I am only one board member, but I probably would not vote for it. So with that said, right now it is out of our hands and it is up to the city to decide what's going to happen.
Thank you. Mr. Chan.
I think the cell phone tower issue is a perfect example of how this community can come together and work together. First of all, you have a parent who's concerned about the safety of their child. And that parent got together with other parents and said, we don't think that this cell tower is safe, and we have concerns about the safety of and the risk that's on the health of our kids. And you can't fault a parent for that. Absolutely not. That's their right, and that's what they're supposed to do, is look out for their kid. So they take those concerns to the district, they get together, they form a committee, and together they try to find a solution. And it's not easy when you deal with a $100 billion company to get them to move. But they try, and they're making progress. And I think that's a great thing. Once the district and the committee, cell phone tower committee, get together and they finally decide to remove the cell tower, I'll be the first one out there with a sledgehammer to take it down.
Thank you. Mr. Chang.
Cell phone tower is a public health issue. As the hospital administrator, I'm totally concerned about the human being, the health. Just like we are in the emergency room, we always make sure, the doctor, they don't order too many the CT scan. As you know, last year I became the board education president. So with my leadership and the other 4 school board, we organized the committee. The reason we want to have a different voice so they can get together and then share their concern and then come out of opinion. So right now, I think the cell phone tower is stay in this committee for the discussion and to looking for the solution. So I think the parent need to be the patient. I think the school district for sure will like to resolve this issue. Yeah.
Thank you. Our next question, and Mrs. Jack will be the first respondent. Question number 4, the San Marino Unified School District will receive a one-time allocation of approximately $200 per student to implement the state-mandated Common Core program. As a board member, what do you see as budget needs where those funds can be best allocated? Mrs. Jack.
The Common Core is something that's required in 46 states, including California, and now requiring that we teach that. The standard is about 80% the same as the current ones we have now, but what differentiates it is there's a greater emphasis on deeper thinking, what they consider to be depth of knowledge. So rote memorization, simple recall, and basic application take a back seat to analysis and evaluation. Now, detractors say that there will be more of an emphasis on things like nonfiction versus fiction, which some say reduces the possibility of our children reading the classics as well as understanding the nuances. So in terms of the additional monies that we would use, I would use that, one opinion as a board member, to add the things that may be the 20% that we are not doing because Common Core requires us to do otherwise, which is what the state has required us to do. One note, though, it's going to be very interesting because the Common Core requires certain requirements that we follow, and when we teach an AP class, for example, AP English, there's certain AP requirements that we must follow. So there is going to be certain issues that we must look at in terms of trying to deal with synthesizing and making sure that they both can come to one harmonious teaching tool.
Thank you. Mr. Chan.
I think the Common Core issue and utilizing the extra $200 of funds, I on this would actually defer to the experts in our school district who know about that, which is our school administrators. They've gone through all the training, hours and hours of training. In fact, we actually approved 4 extra pay days for our teachers to study the Common Core last year. So that cost us a pretty penny. So they should know what's going on, and I would defer to them because, as a school board member, I think we should look at things from a global standpoint, from a mile-high standpoint, and not meddle in the exact teaching of and get into the classrooms. You don't want me teaching your kids. I'm not qualified to do that. Our teachers are there for that, and our administrators are there to administer. And so I think that we should let them give us a proposal as to how they should use the funds, and we would act accordingly.
Thank you. Joseph.
As you know, after No Child Left Behind from the federal, and right now state, they mandate for the Common Core requirement. So with this standard, that will make a big change in California. And as you know, the Common Core, first of all, we are asking for the math and the English. And the reason they bring up this because they believe currently, the learning skill and ability is not good enough. So they need to bring up for the Common Core standard reinforced for all the public school to follow up. So I believe that with the Common Core, the budget-wise will increase. So that's the reason it's very important for me to stay for another 4 years to figure out how we can tailor for the budget and put into the Common Core. Yeah.
Thank you. Moves us to question 5, and Phil, you will be the first to respond. As a potential board member, would you ever consider using billy goats for I'm very sorry, Shelley has not answered. Let's go back to question number 4. Shelley, I apologize.
Can you repeat again?
I will gladly repeat. No, Shelley is up, and do you need me to repeat the question, Shelley? I'm sorry, I had mismarked.
No,
Okay,
I don't need you to, no.
It's Shelley.
All right. So as we transition to Common Core, it will be very important as a school board member to ensure that the superintendent and his staff are prepared to assist and help our students to transition to the Common Core. Common Core requires us to look at various depth and complexity skills for all students. It goes from K to 12, and it requires that we help the students to transition from classroom learning to real life learning. And so as such, it changes the focus to more experiential learning. And one of the things that I would propose with the extra money is that we look at how we spend the money to ensure the success of the children in the transition into Common Core.
Thank you. And I apologize for the Billy Goat question. That was from the City Council Voters Forum that we apparently did not have to have. Speaking of City Council people, I believe Dr. Richard Sun is here, one of our City Councilmen is here, and Dr. Alan Young also in attendance. Thank you. And that takes us to what I believe is the real question 5, and Mr. Chan will be the first to answer. Since 2012, advanced placement, or excuse me, 2010, advanced placement or AP classes at San Marino High School have been expanded from 24 to 28 units. Understanding that opening access to AP classes for all students would slightly dilute the curriculum for higher performing students and possibly require increase in staffing. Are you in favor of or opposed to open access to advanced placement classes for all students? Phil.
Can I answer the Billy Goat question instead?
Yeah.
All right. With regard to AP, first of all, I think we have to give credit where credit's due, and we have to thank NAM for increasing the percentage of students who are able to take AP classes from 20 to 50%, so I think she really deserves a lot of credit for that. I met with Keith Derrick over the summer, and we spent 2 hours, and he explained to me in detail how he determines how many AP classes that there are in the high school. He went over his very complicated matrix to me, and basically he has, if you have a teacher who has 5 periods, and you have 5 teachers in science, you have 25 slots. And so what he needs to do is he needs to fill those 25 slots first with the kids who need to graduate. So basically your core requirements. So let's say everybody needs to take biology in the freshman year. Well, if there's 7 classes left over, he can use those to fill in with AP classes. He'd love to have more AP classes, but funding is an issue. And so I believe that we need to figure out ways to definitely offer more AP classes to our kids. My son's taken 6 AP classes right now in the high school, but also we can't lose sight of others in our high school who need your basic core education, and we can't leave those people out either. So,
Thank you. Joseph.
As you know, the AP class has been a discussion item for so many years in the community. As the school board member, definitely we want to open more access to the AP. I can give you the example from the Academic Advisory Committee, the recommendation. So last year we opened for online course. So last year, psychology, we have about 30 people, and this year about 45. And then for the Europe history, last year we don't have, and this year we have 4. And work history, last year have 2, and this year have 0. And the music, last year they have 22, but this year 0. So we need to carefully to interpret whether we have AP access for the school student, because each student, they have their design, their purpose to choose the AP. But this is the trend, you know, the district administrator already know that we need to open the AP access.
Thank you. Mrs. Ryan?
When looking at access, we need to ensure that all children have choices and that opportunities are maximized for them. AP classes are but one means for our children to differentiate themselves as they prepare for college and beyond. There are honors programs, there are internships that we have to build and put in place. We also need to look at experiential learning. How does a student translate classroom learning into the real world learning? And so we need to look at other ways in which we can partner with businesses and other agencies to bring services to our class, and also look at AP as just one means of access for kids to get into the colleges of their choice. On the Academic Advisory Board for the past several years, Shelley Inger has led our team in looking at alternative scheduling as well as staffing for facilitating if there is more requests for open access to AP classes.
Thank you. Mrs. Jack.
The last time I was here at a voters forum, the argument was that the board needed to provide greater access, which is what we have done. Can we do better? Absolutely. But I believe in that it might not be in the context of expanding the AP classes and access, because when we have like over 50% of our kids taking AP classes in one form or another, that's a lot of classes. One complaint that has come up again and again is some parents have complained wanting to take 2 sciences at a time, and I think that is something that has some validity. And I think that is, in the next 4 years, something that I think the board should look into. What are the possible solutions? I don't know. The Academics Advisory Committee has presented a report about elongating the school day and having more school periods. We need to look at that. I think we also need to look into what appears to be possibly the future of education, which is online classes, to see whether or not the school district would be willing to provide credit for supplemental online classes after school. Regardless of what way it happens, one of our goals is to make sure that our kids get into the best colleges that they can. College admissions is crucial. So whether it's AP, whether it's honors, whatever it may be, but if AP is still a factor, then that is something we need to look into and try to find creative solutions to help our children.
Thank you. Are those questions coming in, Mr. Biles, Mr. Chen? Are we doing okay? Let's make sure that if you want to ask a question, make sure you get a sheet from one of our 2 City Club representatives. I want to thank Steve Talt for leaving me this split of champagne up here to keep my attention where it belongs. Question number 6, and our first respondent will be Joseph. Several years ago, the San Marino Unified School District, in their mission statement, made a commitment to foster recognized excellence among all students in the 3 A's: academics, arts, and athletics. Do you feel that subsequent boards and administrators have assured that the needs of all 3 of these disciplines have been met?
As you know, for my second term, we start to formulate the district goal. So then we put 3A as our district goal. I think for the last couple of years, we've been have a lot of achievement. For me, 3A is not just enough. I think I always looking for the student character development. As you know, right now, the Common Core, they already come out some standard, because they want the student to learn and they are able to work in the society. So I believe the 3A is important, but we need to do more items and to make sure, we can develop students for academically and also go to the society to work.
Thank you. Mrs. Ryan?
Okay. The 3 A's, I would like to also suggest that there's a 4th A: academics, athletics, arts, and accountability. When we're talking about the 3 A's, we're talking about preparing students to be successful as they transition from the grades, whether it's kindergarten to 1st grade, from 5th grade into the middle school into the high school. We need to ensure success at each of the levels and that children transition successfully. The 3 A's just ensure that we look at a more balanced approach in appreciating the fact that our children are different and that their needs need to be met. And one of the ways that we want to look at the 3 A's is whether or not our programs are effective, whether or not we are accountable for those programs, because it's easy to just say, we support the 3 A's, but how do we measure these programs and evaluate how successful we are?
Thank you. Mrs. Jack.
I think the district has done a fabulous job in the 3As. In terms of academics, API scores, 953 out of 1,000. We are the #1 unified school district for 11 consecutive years. In terms of arts and athletics, our children participate in astronomical figures, and they enjoy that, and we stress that. Because I think, and you know, if you look back in your at whatever point you were at school, it's not sometimes that you remember that you got an A in physics. It's that you got to play with your teammates on a basketball team, or whether it was band, or whether you were in a play, which is what's going on tonight, by the way. For all of those reasons, that's what makes you a whole human being. And I, with this particular board, cannot take credit for it. I mean, it started from the boards before us who decided that in order to be a whole person, in order to feel like part of a family, you needed academics, arts, and athletics.
Thank you. And Phil.
I think the 3As are extremely important to have a well-rounded experience in high school, and I credit the board members that were prior to the board members right now. We have to thank the Jeannie Caldwells, the Andy Barrs, the Scott Jenkins for having that type of vision to focus on the 3As and provide that type of experience here in San Marino. I think it's extremely important because I have 2 kids and they're completely different. One's more athletic, one's more in the arts. One's more of a drama or music person, one's more of an athlete. And so I can understand that, but of course they both have to have good academics, and that goes without question. So I think it's extremely important to have a well-rounded person. I think across the board, if you look in the business world, we want to hire people who are well-rounded. We want to hire people who have engaged in these types of activities, who know how to have great personal skills, who've overcome adversity, all the things that you get when you participate in the 3As.
Thank you. That moves us on to question number 7. And Shelley, you will be the first to respond to that. Question 7. Excuse me. The inter-district transfer students attending San Marino schools bring in between $2.5 and $3.5 million per year through ADA funding. Understanding that many of these students are the children of school district employees, city employees, and the children of employees of companies located in San Marino, would you consider, as some have suggested, a program to further limit or altogether restrict inter-district transfer students from the San Marino Unified School District?
I believe that our school district is second to none in this area, so lots of students and families would like to come to our school district. I do not believe in restricting access for inter-district transfers in the sense that we want to make sure that our class sizes are uniform so that we can provide services, so that our ADA money stays stable, so that we can support the programs and the classes for the students. On the other hand, I understand that our community is concerned about the students transferring in, but let me assure you, as I look at the numbers and the contributions from the students from inter-district transfers, that they are a benefit to our community and to the diversity of our community, and our acceptance of inter-district transfers is very important to the education system.
Thank you. Mrs. Jack.
Of the approximately 3,200 students we have attending, approximately 12.78% are inter-district transfers, many of whom we call PERT, which are children of our district employees, children of our city employees, and children of employees who are employed by businesses here in the city. The order of priority obviously is residents, and then the PERT students, and then out-of-district students. But the inter-district transfers are really, really important to the district's planning because they generate between $2 to $3 million a year. and it does help determine our class sizes and even them out. So, for example, in the high school, we need an optimum of about 1,200 kids to run a maximum schedule. I understand that there is dissatisfaction of parents who live in the district, especially those who may be affected in the elementary and middle school level, which is why in our school district, unlike a lot of other school districts, we wait until the very last moment because it will depend on class sizes and the number of students that we have to determine whether or not they can come and be part of our San Marino community.
Thank you. And Mr. Chan.
I think that's, this is a really good question, and I would actually like to create a model. And I would actually like to create an economic model and kind of actually see what the budget of the school district would look like if we didn't have the inter-district kids in our school system. I actually am curious to see. I don't know if that's ever been done, and I wouldn't ask anybody in the school district to do that. I could do that myself. If I was a school board member, I'd had access to all this confidential information that that I don't have access to now because I've asked for it. So I think that, you know, something like that should be done. But as far as all the people who are going to school right now, who are following all the rules, they're the kids of our district, our teachers or administrators, people who work in the city. I think they should be allowed to go to our schools.
Thank you. Joseph?
As an individual, as a city resident, I totally don't like to have an inter-district transfer. But as a school board member, as you know, you need to pay attention about how to use the limited resource. Because currently, for our priority, you know, we open to the city and the school employee children, because that's a motivation for the teacher and also friendly to the city. So with that, then as the school board member, I think we need to carefully, cautiously to monitor what and how and we get the district, inter-district transfer, because that also one of the revenue. I can give you the statistic, you know, the inter-district transfer is about 12%. So that also is a contribute to the revenue.
Thank you. After this final question, excuse me, that is from the script, we will be having questions that will be brought up to the stage. And during that interim time, if anyone wants to come up and play the drums, we brought this set here for you. I want to appreciate you all having brought your notes and prepared. This one, there may not be much preparation to answer the final question. It's been a pleasure. I know you all have got students that are in the district or have gone through the district. It's been a pleasure personally to know all of your children. Phil's sons, athletes, baseball player, football player. Phil's son, earlier this year, ran back the opening kickoff of the entire season for a touchdown. But then, like Phil, he was not smart enough to quit and never run the ball again, because how do you top that? Joseph's son was a San Marino Tribune editor for the day, and he's just a brilliant, brilliant young man, brilliant writer as well. I can't imagine a higher compliment that I could pay to anyone's children than Shelley's putting her twins on the front page. Very courageous athletes, wonderful athletes. Both of Nam's children, wonderful, are both here. Drew and Devin. Drew is on a ranked CIF cross-country team. Devin, already in her freshman year, a CIF champion tennis player, and is studying here in the front row, which I give her a lot of credit for. And so with that in mind, all successful organizations are typically in a state of constant reevaluation and analysis. The very nature of your campaign has certainly brought forth suggestions from well-meaning, concerned parents who have mentioned the few shortcomings of what is the top-rated unified school district in the state of California, and has been for the past 11 years. Each of you have children who attend or once attended San Marino schools. To end this part on a hopefully positive note, please explain to the audience a moment in your children's or child's experience that crystallizes their experience in a uniquely San Marino way. Mrs. Jack.
Drew and Devin, and as a mom, you know, I think every moment is precious, and I think for me, I guess it has been the care that has been given to them by the teachers, whether it was at Valentine, whether it was at Huntington, or whether it was at San Marino High School. And so for me, I guess it has been moments in time. And for Drew, I think it would be our cross-country coach, Coach Mundo, who has taught him that family and the importance of equality for all of the kids on the team, whether it's a 9th grader, 10th grader, 11th grader, or 12th grader. And for Devin, I guess it's just always the wanting to succeed, because every teacher that she has had has wanted her to become better. Sometimes complaints along the way because of wanting to be better. But every single one of our teachers has really taken the time to want to get to know the kids and to try and make them better human beings. And as a parent, that's all I can ask for.
Thank you. Phil?
For me, would have to be when my older son, Jeffrey, who's now a senior at San Marino High School, when he was 10 years old and he was at Valentine, he became very ill. He had to miss about 6 months of school. And during that time, he received so much support from his teachers, his classmates. He received letters, drawings. When his class went on a field trip, somebody documented the whole thing because they said they didn't want Jeffrey to miss out on anything. And it just goes to me towards the community that we have here, how much people care, and how much the teachers here care about our students, how much effort they put forth, and that would be it.
Thank you. Joseph?
I have two sons, and one is 26, another one 23. The first one, they are in the medical intern the first year. The second son, they just finished the UCLA. As I follow my father's discipline, I also give them a very strict discipline. After the school board 12 years, I don't go to the teacher to ask a special favor because I trust the teacher to manage my two sons. And also, I believe the education is very important, especially family education. I ask my son how to respect the other and also need to do the volunteer because through the volunteer, they can learn how important to survive in this society. My second son been working in a mobile clinic in Hollywood to serve for the homeless. Even July 4, everyone go to see the firework, and he's still there to deliver the food to the homeless.
Thank you. Mrs. Ryan?
We have 3 children, and our oldest, Caitlin, graduated from Temple City High School, so I have that to compare with our experience at San Marino High School and the San Marino Unified School District. Kieran and Justin, our twins, went through K-12, and I think the crystal or the most important aspects of their education here is the fact that they had an opportunity to go to preschool with their best friends and continue on through the next 12 years with their best friends. You can't compare that to anything else in terms of the sense of community, the sense of belonging. They have their best friends in Little League and on their football team. And as they go off into their journey into the next stage in college, they carry with them the experiences that they've had at San Marino and all of you guys, because you were part of their family in the last 13 years.
Thank you. That ends the 8 prepared questions. We have had 4 questions brought to the stage. A handwriting sample of Steve Talt's writing was given to the board members, and any that resembled that were immediately tossed out, or any that made fun of my suit, long pants, or hard shoes that I'm wearing here today. And so we have this. We'll have 4 questions from the audience, and then we are going to have 2-minute closing statements to end tonight's forum. Number 1, and we will start again with Phil and go down the line. As a board member, would you consider having term limits, we already know what Joseph's answer is going to be to this, in place to allow for new perspectives? As a board member, would you consider having term limits in place to allow for new candidates or board members?
Actually, would be in favor of having term limits. I think term limits are a good idea, but how long they should be, 12 years, 16 years, I'm not sure. I think it's good to have a new infusion of energy, new fresh ideas, new passion. I think that always helps any organization. You know, I've sat on a lot of different boards, and not that the people who've been there for a long time are stale or anything like that, but it's just a little bit of a twist, a little bit different. We have to thank them, obviously, for their service, for their years of service, but I think having some fresh blood, some new thinking is always a good idea.
Thank you. And Joseph, what a hard 16-year term limit, right?
I wish there's a term limit so can discourage me not to run again because I like to run continuously. To be serious to you, I don't know you think serve as the school board is an honor, the name, honorary name, or is a hard work. I tell you, the serve as a school board, they need to put a lot of time and effort. It's not everyone they can follow up, especially if you have a full-time job, you may not able to do it. The reason I can do it, because I'm a sales employee, I can design my schedule, and I can come to make a commitment to the school district. Actually, I don't think it's easier to continue to serve for 16 years, but because of my passion, I'm struggle every day whether I want to run again, but finally I said for the common core and the local control funding formula, I want to serve another 4 years.
Thank you. Mrs. Ryan.
I believe term limits are important. It allows other leaderships, other types of leadership to also join the board. The board is comprised of 5 people. It is important to ensure that there are various skill sets represented on the board. I think that a term limit of 2 terms, 8 years is very nice in that it allows somebody to serve for almost 10 years, but it also allows transition and fresh ideas and new energies to be infused onto the board. Yes.
Thank you. And Mrs. Jack.
I believe in term limits as well. In terms of what that would look like, I'm not sure, but for all of the reasons that the other candidates have said, I believe it is important to have an infusion of new energy and dedication and enthusiasm. On the other hand, there are board members, you know, like Joseph, who have been able to sustain that enthusiasm, dedication, and energy, but I do believe that we should have term limits.
Thank you. And Jeannie, you know, most term limits allow you after 8 years served to sit out 4 and then come back. I'm pretty sure as well. Next question, and our first respondent will be Joseph. Knowing what you know now regarding the cell tower controversy, would you approve leasing of school property to construct cell towers? Joseph.
Well, as I mentioned about the cell phone tower is the public health issue. If you look at the before 1990, you know, the people approved for the cell phone tower. Until right now, people have a more concern. But in reality, you know, in this society right now, you know, the human being, they utilize more the resource. Usually, they will affect more the public health factor. So if you want to say the cell phone tower directly get a cancer, they still have a questionable. So I'm in the healthcare, and I also major in public health. I always believe we need to have the evidence, the strong evidence to make a decision. So as I mentioned to you, my decision, you know, I will not have a cell phone tower in the school district if there's a new one to install.
Thank you. Shelley?
I also would not allow cell towers to be constructed on school property. I would ensure as we move forward and we look at changing technology to also continue to be vigilant and be a watchdog for other things that may affect or endanger our children. The cell tower is but one issue that parents are concerned about, but we also need to be vigilant and ensure that we do not enter into further contracts which would place our children in health risks.
Thank you. Nam.
No, I would not enter into any future contracts.
You have 53 seconds remaining in your speech.
I had a very simple answer.
Phil.
I think looking back, hindsight being 2020, I don't think anybody would approve that contract, given the hard feelings that it has caused within the community. I mean, we're a real small community. We're a tight-knit community. That's what makes San Marino great. Who would want that kind of divisiveness that we've had over this issue? I mean, it's just not worth it for $4,000 a month. So I would definitely not. Instead, I would have put the cell tower in Steve Talt's backyard. So.
Poor Steve. What did he do to? I don't answer that question. By the way, Nam ran over on a couple of questions, so that was just kind of her makeup response there. Okay, I believe that is everybody. Our next question will be answered first by Shelley. When do you think the school year should start, and why? Shelley, sorry, go ahead.
There's been a lot of discussion about the start of the school year, and one of the things that we have to be cognizant about is when the children take tests, whether it be the SAT, ACT, the Smarter Balance test. One of the reasons why the schools moved the starting date of the school earlier is because we wanted to ensure that there was preparation and time for the students to anticipate taking the test and then sending the test scores out to colleges. It doesn't apply as well for the elementary schools, but in order to keep our school district uniform in terms of start and stop dates, we needed to look at that to ensure that our students had proper preparation before testing and the test scores get sent out.
Thank you. Your husband Kelly's from like Moose Rear End, Saskatchewan or something, and don't you start school the first day it snows, which is like August 10th or something like that? Nam.
I grew up at a time when we didn't start school. Okay, I grew up in Korea, so we start in January. No, I'm only kidding. But I grew up in a time when we started school after Labor Day, so I understand the concerns and I understand the wanting to do that. However, we changed the start of school because our administrators told us that there were very good reasons to do so, one of them being that CIF and our sporting events were being pushed back, and so we needed a little more time to train. And secondly, and most importantly, the fact that, for example, with AP testing, if you're a senior and you take those AP tests, after that you're done and you want to go out that door. And those AP tests are done by the end of May. So for us to try and teach our children, the students, all that they need to learn, by the time they take that AP test, we need to start them a little earlier. And I'm going to use my daughter as an example. She's taking AP Bio now, and even with our start date, Mr. Colo requested that she do 4 or 5 chapters before the start of school. So that's one of the things that we are struggling against. But because I believe it is a Steve Talt question, Steve, I do want to tell you that we will try as best as we can to keep the date the way it is now, which is the 3rd week of August.
Thank you. Phil.
I definitely wouldn't move it any earlier than it is right now. And it's already been said, but it's definitely an issue with regard to the testing schedule for the high school students and weighing that against the concerns of our Valentine and Carver and middle school parents who want to have a long and nice summer vacation and come back to school after Labor Day.
Thank you, and Joseph.
This issue became the issue because we are unified school district. What is a unified school district? We have elementary school, middle school, and high school. Some of the school districts, they only have a high school, so they don't need to care about some of the young kids, the schedule issue. Actually, if you go through the K to 12, you finish the 12, you understand each the stage, they have their need. to compromise the schedule. So then after you finish your 12, and then you know what is the answer.
Thank you. I don't care when you start school. I was just getting tired of those June 27th graduations myself. Final question, and the first respondent will be Nam. Please describe specifically what your past vocational achievements are besides educational background, and how those achievements will distinguish you from other candidates. And this person was kind enough to write thank you at the bottom of their question. And Mrs. Jack, you're first.
My background, as I said before in my opening statement, I received an undergraduate teaching certificate, and I taught for 2 years teaching high school history. So I believe that brings an educational viewpoint to the table. I am an attorney, and I used to work for a very large law firm, over 1,200 people. So that, I think, brings not only the ability to analyze, advocate, but also the ability to work in a large setting with a large budget. So with all, and of course, being a parent and a wife, I think that's probably the most skills that I've got out in all of that. But so being a teacher, being a lawyer, working on different boards, KidSpace, I was on the board of that. Foothill Family Service, I was on the board of that. So, and as a fundraiser. So I think all of those, I think, permit me to provide a complete framework of skills and abilities to help the school district.
Thank you. Mr. Chan.
Going back to what I believe is the #1 issue with regard to the school district, which is our funding. And not only the fact that, the money that we're going to get from the state or not get from the state, the fact that, 49% of our budgets provide by local sources. We have to look at how we're spending our money. And we can't continually go to our parents and ask them to write checks. We write checks every day. At some point, we've got to look at how we're spending our money, and my background in accounting and finance will definitely give me the ability to help the board, the 5-member board, make better decisions, I think, with respect to that. Also, the fact that my background in technology, I think, will help give the district a different perspective with regard to some of the new technologies that are out there and how they can help our district get into the next decade. Also, with regard to on a volunteer experience, being Little League president has a lot in common with, I think, being the school district. And basically, when you're in charge of the welfare of 600 kids and all their families, that has a lot in common with, I think, being in the school board and looking at the welfare of all our students.
Thank you. Joseph?
The reason, I continue to run because I like education. Even I'm the hospital administrator. But actually, when I'm serving for us hospital administrator, all the time I'm dealing with education. So 1996 to 2000, I'm serving for assistant clinical professor for USC. They send the student come to the hospital. They follow me the 1,000 hour. And also because I'm serving in the healthcare, I've been advisory for the Citrus College and Mount Si College and the Pasadena PCC for some advisory work. And also, I was the Chinese school principal. So all the time I'm doing for healthcare, but I'm dealing with education.
Thank you. And Shelley?
All right. I have a 30-year background and experience in education. I have successfully helped my children to transition from K to 12. And as such, I sit on various boards to ensure the successful transition of students from academic advisory to the Pasadena Community College Board. My skill set will be beneficial on the board because I bring with it a unique perspective. I have a unique skill in terms of being able to bring people in, and I'm a leader of people and tasks, so I will be able to steward an education program that is second to none. I will ensure that there is sufficient funding and support for the children as they transition to Common Core. And I am very familiar with school budget, and I will be able to help the school board members to facilitate for local control funding.
Thank you. That ends our 4 questions that came from the audience. We will have 2-minute closing statements in just a minute. Mrs. Jack, you will go first, followed by Mrs. Ryan, followed by Mr. Chang, followed by Mr. Chan. A couple people we have in the back here. Let's thank California Sound, Bruce Mealy and Milan Jovovich for being here, and Hannah Mushet-Cardenas. And this forum is being filmed, and you'll be able to watch it over an internet broadcast if you would like. And so that brings us to our 2-minute closing statements, and making the statement first will be Mrs. Nam Jack.
The right of every child to receive a quality public education is the most important right of all, for we all know it is the key to individual opportunity, personal growth, and the dignity of self-reliance. Someone once said that a great society is a place where every child can find knowledge to enrich the mind and enlarge their talents. It is a place where we value our teachers, where we value wisdom, where we value understanding, and the importance of community. Living in a global community, living in this community, education is the best investment we can make for our future and those of our children. Members of the school board, therefore, have a tremendous responsibility to steward our extraordinary educational system for current and future students. Competent, passionate, and committed leaders are required to deliver that stewardship. I believe that I can continue to be that leader. Thank you for being here. Thank you for inviting me tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Jack. Statement now from Mrs. Shelley Ryan. Shelley.
I think my background in education will be an asset to the school board. Placing children first in a time of transition will be very important. I stand for maximizing opportunities for all students. I believe in fiscal responsibility and maximizing the resources that we have for our children. I want to be part of the board to ensure successful transition into the Common Core and smarter balanced testing. I would like to represent you in determining the funding for our schools. As such, we want to look at how the budget is used to ensure that we're fiscally sound. I would like to ensure that there is sufficient funding for our students as we proceed. And finally, I would like to say that as a school board member, I would work hard and bring the skill set that I have to work within the community and to represent the needs of the community.
Thank you. Joseph Chang.
First of all, I'd like to appreciate Mitch as a moderator and also City Club executive to host this event. Whether you will put a term limit in the future for me, I would like to ask you to give me another 4 years. Chinese family always said they leave the house property to the kid. To me, I think the education is the best investment. That's what I give to my children. For my 12 years, I make speech in the high school graduation. The 12 years I see from the K to 12, those kids, they grow. That's a reward for me. And that's also the achievement. So education always the beautiful things in the future. So I believe with my passion, you should consider me one more time.
Thank you, Joseph. Last, certainly not least, Mr. Phil Chan. Phil.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you very much for coming tonight and taking your time out of your schedule to come and listen to all the candidates, especially thank you for coming out and taking your time out to listen to me And I hope that I have discussed and demonstrated to you how my background as a certified public accountant, my background as an entrepreneur, will add value to this board, and how I will look after the welfare of our students. And I hope that you will cast one of your 3 votes, because you have 3 votes, for me, and I hope I have demonstrated my worthiness to you. One thing you can be sure of is that I am there to listen to your concerns. I'm there, I'm easily approachable, and whether you see me out on the street, over at Starbucks, over at the schools, please feel free to always come up to me and discuss whatever you have on your mind, and I'll definitely listen. Thank you.
Audience, your restraint has been commendable and incredible, and now I ask you to give these people what they deserve, and that is a tremendous round of applause for being exceptionally well prepared. Thank you very much, and I turn it over to Mr. Biles. Dan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mitch. I really would like to thank all of you for your patience, your attention, good questions, and all of the candidates, Mr. Chan, Mr. Chang, Mr. Jack, Mr. Ryan. I think it's going to be a great city school district because of the efforts of you and your counterparts. The City Club, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that those of you who live and or work in the San Marino are eligible to be members of the City Club. Many of you are. Those of you who are not, we invite you to consider joining. We charge an outrageous price of $115 a year, and that includes about 8 dinners. So it's not a bad deal. I also would like to thank the scouts. I don't know if any of them are still here. And Hannah is going to be editing the videography that she took today, along with the great sound that they captured. And we are looking for a place to be streaming this program for those people who were not able to be here. And we are also will have it available in the library shortly. And if the ghost of Channel 19 shows back up, it would also be, we can hang it there as well. So I would like to have all of you give yourselves a round of applause for being so patient, and also for and for Mitch. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.